Howdy, y'all. Caleb here, and today we got a pretty interesting preview of what the upcoming General's Handbook for Season 2 of this 2022-2023 pitched battle season is going to look like. And it has some interesting stuff in it. So let's go through that and look at what maybe it means for our Seraphon armies. So first off, I think in this article on Warhammer Community Online, you go read it, go watch this video. It has some great stuff in there. I'll point out a couple things that I think are kind of interesting. This first sentence here, it talks about this Galatian season that we're in, and that those Galatian veterans, which we've come to know in this last season, that once ruled the subterranean skirmishes, have retreated to lick their wounds. I think this kind of hints that we might see Galatian veterans disappearing from this edition, this new season. And so some of those benefits that came with that and some of the battle tactics and things that you would score with that will probably be gone. And we use that a lot for our skinks primarily. We also had some, use for it with like Source Warriors. They became slightly better, especially as like a summoned item. In some cases, Guard had a little bit of a purpose there, but really the main focus of Galatian veterans for us was in the skinks. So we may see that being gone. It doesn't say if we're going to lose the bonds of battle, which let you fight in the second rank. That'd be a real shame because that was kind of interesting for a lot of armies. Not very useful with how good Source Warriors are right now, but with the new book coming up, who knows? But that also looks like it might be gone. I would love for that to stay if it ends up making it into this new General's Handbook. That was a very good rule, I thought. The thing that it looks like it's going to be replaced by is this Galatian champion. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, is looking at these Galatian champions. This new keyword, it says it here, this new keyword applies to all unmounted heroes with a wound characteristic of less than 10. And so this is looking for all your small support heroes is what this is going to buff. Now, once you give this keyword to those units, there's going to be some different things that are going to happen. There's specifically some abilities that we'll see here, but it probably will also lean into some of the battle tactics and, maybe grand strategies, that kind of thing that comes in a General's Handbook. So I think you're going to have to bring some of these in your army, depending on how the GHB shakes out. I was interested to see what would fall into that category for Seraphon, since we are talking about Seraphon for this video and pretty much this entire channel. So what falls into that? We do have a Source Astrolith Bear that shows up in a lot of lists. It's very useful. So I think this is one that you'll see showing up as this Galatian champion quite a bit, just because it goes into a lot of our armies. The Source Eternity Warden, almost never seen. The Source Old Blood, also never seen. You could build one out of a couple of kits, but no, I don't think it's seen the board in forever. A Source Sunblood, which is interesting. It gives a +1 to wound, so it's useful, but just not quite worth for its points. So the Source has quite a few, but they don't see the table all that often. A Skink Priest, a Skink Star Priest, and a Skink Starseer all see the table quite regularly, especially in Starborn, but also over in the Coalesced as well. And then, of course, a Slann. A Slann is taken, either a Slann or Croak is taken in just about every single list. I think might lean us towards Slann a little bit over Croak, because Croak isn't going to be able to be counted as a Galatian champion, but a Slann will. And so think about that when we're looking at some of these rules. They do have an asterisk here, and that points down to lower that no uniquely named heroes can be taken as a Galatian champion. And so keep that in mind. There's a picture of the new General Handbook that's coming out. It does have Skaven on it. So look to shoot some Skaven off the board this season. And it has a couple of different rules here. We have some flavor text here, but let's look at these two rules here. So the key to victory, and I think this is the one that's going to be the biggest game changer, depending on how this GHB shakes out. But the key to victory is friendly Galatian champions cannot be picked as the target of attacks made with missile weapons while they're within 1 inch of any friendly battle line units. Ooh, that's juicy. So, the long-standing way to defeat a Seraphon army is to shoot off the Skink Star Priest, right? That's kind of the first target everyone goes after because they know it's such a force multiplier. Now we have a way to protect those small support heroes. Our skink priest may not get shot off the board turn 1. Our star priest may not get shot off the board turn 1. Our star seer, may be safe for a few turns. This generally will make a lot of our heroes fairly hard to hit. So that is pretty good. Now, take in mind, in this video, if you listen to this video that's up here at the very beginning, he does mention that there is going to be a battalion called the Galatian Sharpshooters, which allows them to shoot those heroes. So, depending on how good that is, we may be in a expert conqueror's bounty hunter situation where they give us a really cool rule, but then they immediately give you the hard counter to that rule. And if that's the case, it may be to where these Galatian champions aren't really as tough as it sounds. If everyone is going to take this sharpshooter battalion, whatever that does, and is able to shoot off these guys, then it won't really change much. But on first glance, it looks like this might be very, very strong. We'll see how this shakes out, see what the sharpshooter battalion does. But being able to keep alive those support heroes is going to be very, very good. Now, for our army, our army is built on synergies of heroes and abilities and all these types of things. So that's our heroes are very important for Seraphon. There are some armies that don't rely so much on this, and it won't be that big of a deal. There's some armies, you're talking like Nighthaunt or Fire Slayers, some of those armies that really that have lots of small foot heroes that are taking a lot. This is going to be very good. There is another ability here called Desperate Action. If you're taking the second turn in the current battle round, at the start of your hero phase, you can pick one friendly Galatian champion on the battlefield to carry out 2 different heroic actions in that phase instead of 1. So this is replacing Proving Ground. I see this will probably be done a lot more, probably remembered a lot more than Proving Ground was. So this one will give a slight buff to go in second. Now, is that enough to sway the choice between going first and second? Probably not, but it is very useful to be able to pop, an extra command ability and something else, kind of thing. So it will be useful. They do preview here 2 new heroic actions to try, and we see these here. Strike at the opening. What this is basically a heroic action where that hero, a Galatian champion, will get to, if they're within 3 inches of an enemy, will get to fight in that phase. They can't fight again in the hero phase, and in the combat phase, they'll fight last. So a unique ability, especially since Seraphon doesn't have any way to fight in the hero phase. Now, do I have any of these Galatian champions, as I'm looking back at these heroes here, that are going to do any damage in combat? And really, no. Maybe the Sunblood might be the best one in combat. So there might be, if you're taking a heavy Kotal's Claw list, maybe there's a reason to take Sunblood, pair it up with something like Knights, and you get that +1 to wound. But it's not going to do much damage in combat. And so none of our guys are really going to benefit from this heroic action all that much. But this next one is pretty good. It says, lead by example, pick one friendly Galatian champion that has a sworn bodyguard unit, and we'll look at that here in a second. Basically just another unit that's coming along with it. If they're within 6 inches, wholly within, of that champion, within 3 of an enemy unit, they can fight in that hero phase. Same kind of stuff as the previous one. You can't fight again in the hero phase, and when you fight in combat, you'll strike last. So if you get something stuck in with a hero and this bodyguard, which we'll look at that here in a second, there's a rule for that, you can fight a unit in the hero phase. I think that's much stronger than the hero one, at least for us as Seraphon. If we can get some of our units into combat, keep them there, and get to fight again, I think that's quite useful. So I think you will see that one being used. But it does require your hero basically to be wholly within 6 inches, and within 3 inches of the enemy. So there's lots of things to line up. It's going to be a very corner case, I think, or you purposefully try to get this in, squish them in, keep them there, and have them last till the next hero phase. I have found in this edition of stuff, like, things just die too fast. It's usually not hanging around in the hero phase, especially a small little foot hero, or if you have a big unit of something, it can last through a phase or two. but a lot of stuff dies. A lot of stuff isn't around in the hero phase. Sworn Bodyguard is a new unit in this battalion that they previewed, Galatian Command. And so that's taken, one of these Galatian champions, on a hero on foot, and then a unit. I don't know that it says if it just says an infantry unit, so it doesn't have any other further designators there. So it allows them to fight. This command battalion also allows them to fight one after another in combat. So that is actually a pretty good one. So you could, I mean, in theory, you can pull off some great stuff. You can have them fighting in hero and then fighting together in combat. Now they'll fight at the end if you use that ability, but you can play around with this combination pretty well. Unfortunately, I don't think we have just a lot of heroes in Seraphon that will end up being squished into combat like that. And you don't want to get your Skink Star Priest into combat like that. You don't want a Skink Priest. They'll just die in combat. So I don't know that we'll really use this a whole lot. I think what you might see is maybe some Knights paired up with a Saurus hero. That might work. Or, just the Skink ones are just too weak. If you take them in Coalesce, they're just too weak. If you take them in Starborn, you're generally not getting into a heavy melee contest like that. But it is possible. There are a couple other things that, let's see. They talked about will include a realm spell for punishing units camping out on objectives. That will be interesting. I'm always looking for spells to use because our spell lore is a little limited on our usability. We can buff some different things. We can do a little bit of damage, but it's not a real strong spell lore. It also has a new command ability to trade Pylon for extra attacks. So that one is pretty interesting, and that we're always kind of looking for ways to get extra attacks. If I could do this with a unit instead of spending the Stegadon Chief, instead of using his ability to give extra attacks, if I could use this command ability to give extra attacks, generally I'm not too worried about Pylon with on the Monster Mash list types of things, like in the Thunder Lizard list. But that is a pretty good trade, and situational, but could be pretty nice. Some extra artifacts and unique enhancements. Those are going to be interesting to look at since we don't have our own yet, our own unique enhancements for some of that stuff. So they are going to replace some of the battle plans. It looks like about half of them are going to be new, so that should be pretty interesting. And I imagine they'll focus a lot on Galatian champions. One thing I did want to point out, and I haven't noticed, maybe you can let me know if I'm wrong about this. I hadn't noticed anything that says you can't do this, but it does say friendly battle line units. So let's say I have a Skink Priest or a Skink Star Priest or a Star Seer. Those are generally the ones I take in let's say a Thunder Lizard list. You have a battle line unit of a Stegadon. If a Skink Priest is within an inch of a Stegadon, it can't be shot, I guess. So that is pretty useful, pretty handy. I think this makes a Slon. I think the stock goes up on Slons because, depending on what the battle tactics are and stuff like that, but the Slon doesn't need to shoot people to do its signature spell, the Comet's Call. So you're still going to be getting all that damage onto the enemy heroes, and you basically can avoid this. It also makes a Slon pretty difficult to kill. Depending on what the Galatian Sharpshooter is, Slon could be pretty difficult to kill. You add some guard around it like you normally do. That's going to keep it from getting shot. The guard can take the wounds if any spells hit it. You're probably still in your temple, which makes it even more difficult if they do eventually get to where they can shoot it, or just making the guard harder to hit too. So I think this is going to make a Slon even more difficult to hit. This won't help Croak at all, and I think we've kind of already seen Croak, Croak stock going down with some of the heavy Iron Blaster stuff out there right now that Croak just gets sniped off the board turn one. This also makes our Astrolith Banner Bearers, our Skink Priests, a lot harder to hit, so I think this is going to kind of help us out in those situations. Now, all of this might change as soon as we get a book. There's lots of rumors that our book will be this year, and hopefully it will. I can't imagine it's coming out anytime soon, so we should be able to take advantage of a lot of this stuff for a few months at least. I don't know that this will help Saurus out all that often, You generally don't take the small source heroes very much. Maybe this might incentivize you to take, one or two to supplement things. I would have loved if we could have put like a Scarvet on Cold One in this, but he's mounted. But I do like maybe a Sunblood with a Knight, with a unit of Knights, a Sunblood unit of Knights, and a Starseer. We have some of those combinations that I think will benefit from this as they keep up with those Knights, but may not take full advantage of the melee and stuff. So some interesting stuff. Let me know what you guys are thinking about. Any combos here for Seraphon that you think might be good. All right, guys. Look forward to seeing this whole GHB whenever it comes out. I'm definitely buying it, getting excited. Any kind of changes, stirs the pot a little bit, makes you start list building again. So, all right, we'll see you guys later.